In a world where change is constant, there are those rare souls whose unwavering dedication stands as a beacon of hope and inspiration. Meet Father Terry Hickling, a beloved priest whose life has been a remarkable journey of faith, compassion, and service to the community. Born to John and Catherine Hickling, Father Terry's childhood was nurtured on the Hickling family orchard near Wallangara. Little did he know that his love for climbing trees and growing in his faith would lead him to a path of service and devotion. Ordained in St. Mary's Catholic Church in Warwick on the 28th of June 1963, alongside his classmate Father Michael Scahan, Father Terry's ministry would span 6 remarkable decades. From Warwick to Clifton, Crow's Nest, and beyond, he carried his mission of spreading love, faith, and kindness. His service reached as far as the rugged landscapes of Port Hedland, Western Australia, before bringing him back to the town that holds a special place in his heart, Warwick. Let us tune into the story of a man whose dedication and compassion have enriched the lives of countless souls.
Well, firstly, I went to a little state school, and the priests used to visit to do religious education. And I was very impressed by them. There were 3 wonderful priests, memory's getting me down a bit, but there were 3 wonderful. Father Vinnie Ma used to visit, and he used to visit my home, and he used to gather wildflowers round the mountains from my place. And then the other priest who used to come to Father Sinnott, and another priest too, I just forget who it was. I think it was a Father Tom Murphy, yes. So I was very impressed by these priests, and then I went to St. Joseph's School in Stanthorpe for a while, and then I went off to Nudgee. We had a lovely chaplain there, Father Murphy, and I was impressed by those priests. And 5 of our classmates from year 12 went over to Banyo to study for the priesthood. Another one came the next year, so really 6 of the year 12 class at Banyo in 1956 went over to Banyo to train for the priesthood. Of the 6 who went over, 2 left, but 4 were ordained priests. But you go to a seminary to find, is that what God wants you to do? And the 2 that left, I often say, have done more for the church than I have done. One of them was Father Michael Bathersby in Stanthorpe, another was Miles Breen, and they were wonderful Catholics and married lovely ladies, had lovely families, and been an ornament to the church. I was wandering around the hills at home, and I sort of had a vision of Jesus and felt he was calling me to the priesthood. So I felt that was his calling, not my calling. And as I said, I was very impressed by the priests I had met. So I told the parish priest, who was the parish priest of Stanthorpe, where I lived was in the parish of Stanthorpe then. And he then arranged for me to meet the bishop. And I went to see Bishop Brennan, and he asked me why I wanted to be a priest. I said, I believe Jesus wanted me to be a priest. But I said it was my people, and lots of people around Wallangara were longing to have a parish priest in Wallangara. We were part of the parish of Stanthorpe. And I felt that if I went away and became a priest, you would have another priest and be able to put that priest in Wallangara, but not me, but some other priest. And within 2 years of me going to the seminary, Father Brian O'Dwyer was made parish priest of Wallangara, and he had a very eventful time in that parish. doing wonderful things for the parish of Wallangara. I suppose it's the welcome I received in every parish from the lay people. Everywhere I went, I was made very, very welcome, and I felt that, the Lord said, you leave father and mother and country, but you will be rewarded in this world and you're rewarded in the next too. So I think the welcome I received by lay people in all the parishes where I was sent by the bishop was the most rewarding thing. Well, the first bishop was Bishop Brennan, and then he was followed by Bishop Kelly. Bishop Brennan actually sent me over to Port Hedland, but he died while I was over there, and Bishop Kelly was appointed. And then when I came back, I was Director of Missions, Vocations and Caritas for 3 years. And then I was appointed to Mitchell, and Bishop Bill came, Bill Morris, and then Bishop Robert McGuckin. And now we have Bishop Ken. And nothing like variety. Yep. Well, actually, the most wonderful bishop I've met was the Bishop of Geraldton in Western Australia, who was a living saint. He would come to the parishes in his diocese to let the priests have a holiday. He was very much like Bishop Bill with Morris in visiting the people and talking to them, and he was just wonderful. And it was a privilege to work under him for 4 years in Port Hedland. It was so different to everything in the Toowoomba diocese. What happened was, with the mining explosion in Western Australia, the bishops of Western Australia asked the Bishop of Australia to loan them priests. And actually, the Toowoomba diocese sent over 5 priests. Father Michael Carroll went first, then Father John Clancy, then me, then Father Jimmy Cronin, and later on Father Sid Caddy went over to help out. And it was so different to Toowoomba diocese. In Port Hedland, which was 6,000 people, they had to build another town 14 kilometres inland, South Hedland, and it was also 6,000 people. And the parish of Port Hedland looked after the 2 towns, Port Hedland and South Hedland, and then went out to Goldsworthy, a mining town, a Shay Gap, another mining town, and the town of Marble Bar, which is the hottest place in Australia. It had the record of the highest temperature in Australia. And it was a privilege to be associated with the mining people and the Aboriginal people. 1/3 of my parishioners in Port Hedland were Aborigines, and it was a marvellous experience. They were such a wonderful people. So I'm very, very grateful for the time in Port Hedland. Well, firstly, the Warwick people welcomed me, and as I mentioned already, in every parish I went, lay people made me very welcome. I'm very conscious of that. I've enjoyed saying parish masses and visiting the country parishes and visiting the nursing homes and the hospital. And so it's been a very happy experience for me. Well, my body's getting a little worn out, and I'm not as young as I used to be. But it's been a very wonderful experience and a very happy experience. It's had its dry gullies, as every life has, but as I said, I was made welcome in every parish by the lay people, and I've enjoyed all I do and still do. The first thing I do in the morning is kneel down and thank God for 3 things. The gift of life. If you haven't got the gift of life, you've got nothing. Secondly, the gift of my Catholic faith. And thirdly, the blessing of the family I was born into. I was the youngest of 7 children and had a mother and father who loved the 7 children, who supported me in my desires and plans. And something I did learn was that if one of the family got into a bit of strife, my family, mother and father, shared a little bit more love and concern for them. So I thank God every day for those three things. Well, I have I'm greatly interested in my garden, and I enjoy all I do in the garden. But it gets a bit too much for me at times. The weeds are growing so strongly. But I enjoy all I do in the garden. Well, I'll never forget that one time after spending Christmas holidays with Mum and Dad at the seminary, Mum said to me, "Listen, son, if the studies are too hard for you, remember your home is always here." And I always have remembered those words. And another thing was that my mother came from Scotland because my father was from Eulo, joined the army, went to Gallipoli, and on long service he was in France, and he went on long service from France, or R&R, I think. He went to Edinburgh and met a Scottish lassie. And when the war was over, he went back to Edinburgh and married her. And in 1920, they came back to Australia, and he got the soldier settlement 5 miles from Wallangara, an orchard, and I grew up on that orchard with my one sister and 5 brothers. So I appreciate very much the love of my mother and father, and particularly what my mother gave up by leaving her family, her own country, and never going back. I remember there was one time after the war when fruit prices were a lot better, and my father said to my mother, "Kath, I'll take you back to Scotland." "Jack," she said, "we've got 7 kids. We haven't got a car. It'd be better put the money into a car than pay for a trip back to Scotland." So she never got back. But 2 of her sisters came out to Australia and are buried in Wallangara Cemetery. And her brother, Jock, came out and he's buried in Wallangara Cemetery too. Join the priesthood and see the world. Well, probably sing to the mountains, sing to the seas, because I grew up in the Granite Belt in a wonderful valley and spent many days climbing the mountains and wandering the caves and the rock areas of the Granite Belt.
I will give thanks to you, my Lord. You have answered my plea. You have saved my soul from death. You are my strength and my